Hi, Corey McCullough here from Ageless Writer Studios, and so I don't know how to start this really. I and some of my friends, so my birthday was a few weeks ago. Uh, I might do a reflection thing later, maybe, I don't know. Um, but we went and we saw Abigail. I'm sure you've heard of it. You've probably seen the trailers. If you haven't, it's essentially a group of criminals a group of criminals are hired to kidnap a little girl. Plot twist: little girl's a vampire. It becomes she's trapped in a situation of she's trapped in there with them to nope, they're trapped in there with her. So. But it's just, I loved it. Um, I loved the premise of it because, like, okay, I was not. I used to be very horror movie averse because of some bad experiences with horror movies. Horror books I could read, but movies just sort of, I don't know. But I've gotten better. But I still kind of have a thing about evil children. Like, you know. But when I saw the trailer for Abigail, I don't know. I felt I could handle it, and I thought it was going to be good and beautiful. If you haven't seen the trailer, I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen the movie, I even more recommend that. But, the trailer was actually pretty good. I will say this, though. Part of me wishes that the marketing team did not reveal Abigail's, vampiric side in the trailer. I understand why they did, because I will get into the movie later, but quick spoiler, there is some stuff that could be considered child abuse or abuse of a child, or at the very least child endangerment, because again, they kidnap the little girl. So I can understand why, to keep audiences from like being completely turned off, they would show in the trailer, just because they're doing this to this little girl, you have to understand this is not a normal little girl. They don't know that. The people kidnapping her don't know that. But she's not a normal little girl. But also, I think it would have been better if it had been, like, implied. Because there are several scenes in the movie before we really see the fangs come out that imply that Abigail is not, the sweet, innocent, adorable little ballerina that she portrays herself. So I would have preferred, like, throughout the trailer, if they would have implied it, and then during the movie it'd be like, vampire. But I digress. It was really good. It's something that if you're not normally into horror, you could enjoy, because it is pretty funny. And it does have its moment. Like, there are moments. And, spoiler, but maybe not a big spoiler, because I'm not going to go into it, because I don't know. Because I'm not going into it at this moment, because I will get more in-depth with the movie later in this video. And I will make sure there's a big spoiler. Like, but this is part here, still safe. You're safe-ish. There is, like, gore and blood and stuff. Because, again, vampire, kind of goes with it. And because of tiny little ballerina vampire, there's some jump scares that come with that. But all in all, even if you're not into horror, you're not a horror aficionado, this is something you can enjoy. Especially if you're someone who enjoys heist-like movies, where you have like the team of criminals coming together to do a thing. Except these guys are not nearly as they're not nearly as professional as a lot of the heist movies cast would be. I mean, they're good at what they do, but also it's easy to tell early on that they're not really... Maybe I'll get into that. Okay. So here is where I'm actually going to start getting into the movie. Diving in. So now's the time. If you wish to leave or not be spoiled, now is the time. Otherwise, let's get into Abigail. Okay, the movie starts off beautifully with you get to see cute little Abigail doing her little ballet lesson, her little thing that she does, and she's oh so adorable. You know, just da 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 da. You know, which by the way, ballet. I know people like to judge it because of how graceful and poised the ballerinas have to be. And you know, but let me tell you, I did a little research once upon a time about ballet, because I got really into Black Swan. Yes, that Black Swan. That movie. Because I thought the ballet was just so beautiful and so graceful, and the work. Okay, like the way the ballet dancers have to hold themselves and still look poised and graceful and oh so dainty. Those people, they could probably crush you with just their toes. Okay? Their big toes, they could kill you with them. They could probably kill you with their pinky toe because of the strength. But I digress. We get to see cute little Abigail, and then we kind of see also the bad guys kind of coming together, which, I mean, they really are bad guys, but I digress. So we get to see Team A, which is the names they are given, or that were given for them, are not their real names. Obviously, I'm not talking about like actor playing the character. I'm talking about legitimately. These are the names the characters give each other, but they don't have each other's real names because when they were contacted to do this job, one of the main rules is nothing identifying. Do not do anything that could don't say your name or anything that could be identifiable about you, not just to the little girl but to each other, because if one of y'all idiots gets caught, this way you can't rat out on the others, which, you know, fair. So we have Frank. He has glasses. He's the ringleader. Well, he's not really the ringleader, but he's the one in charge of the rest of the group, kind of. He is he's literally the dick in charge. He knows the ins and outs of this. He acts like he does. He's the overconfident douchebag, but does so in a way that, well, maybe he does know what he's talking about. Then we have Joey, who is the main girl, besides Abigail. She has candy that she's popping, which we find out why later. You know, she has these candies, keeps her going. She's one of the few people in the group that kind of has a conscience. And she's kind of there reluctantly. But again, she is there. She serves as sort of the medic because she's got medical training. She's also supposed to be the de facto nanny for the girl when they do abduct the girl, which means she's the only one that Abigail is supposed to see and hear. So that way, when the girl is released for her ransom, she can't identify really anybody else. And then there is I don't want to call him dumb, but he does play the dumb brute archetype. And he goes by Peter. If you notice the pattern with the names, it's because the person who assigned them their names, like the Rat Pack, or the Brat Pack. If you know, you know. Famous people who the group of kids who did, or child actors who did a lot of teen movies back in like the 80s or 90s. I digress. Peter's the muscle man, and he's genuinely kind of a sweetheart, but he's genuinely also kind of dumb, very slow in the uptake, but he's one of those characters that you kind of are like, oh, himbo. He makes you think of a himbo, you know? Heart of gold, dumb of ass, you know? I mean, because he really is. He seems really sweet. I can't say that he actually is sweet. Because, again, he is kidnapping a child. Then there's Team B. We have the little blonde hacker named Sam. She is obviously the youngest out of the group, or one of the younger ones in the group. Hacker girl. Has a little keyboard. I love her aesthetic, but I also don't like her as a person. Just because I'll get into that later, but the vibe. There is Dean, who's played by the late Angus MacLeod. He did pass away, and they did dedicate the movie to him. He played Dean, who is their getaway driver, their main getaway driver. He's really good at driving, really good at doing what he does. You know, they all are. But he is the other major douchebag in the group. But he's the misogynistic, you know, you want some kind of douche. That makes you kind of want to go, stab. Just say. But, you know, he's the getaway driver. And then there's the last one, Wrinkles. They call him Wrinkles. And he is their sniper. The sharpshooter, whatever. He is another one of the characters that I actually kind of like because he was level-headed about things. And he saw what was going on. He kind of could see the issues, and he's just like, okay, here's what we need to do. Okay, that's the team. So, little Abigail, or they're keeping an eye on Abigail, and she's going back to her lavish mansion. And she gets home, you know, and she calls, presumably her daddy, and she's like, oh yeah, practice went well, it was fine. Meanwhile, the group is sneaking into the house. Group B, which is the sniper or the hacker or the getaway driver, are keeping an eye on the house to make sure that nobody else comes in that wasn't already prepared to come in, or that they didn't know it was already going to come in. Hacker girl is making sure that everything's the team A can get in and get out. Getaway driver's ready to go. So team A is in there to snatch and grab the girl. So after she hangs up with her dad, They come in and she tries to fight them, and she's screaming bloody murder, and she's so scared. And Joey gets her like with like a syringe of sleepy stuff and knocks her out, and they put her in a duffel bag and they run off. And then they go to this other, which when they leave, the alarm sound, the settlement is alarmed, and they're like, oh no, hit it. So they go to this other mansion that is kind of it's not really falling apart, but it's not well put together anymore. Like, it's older. And they are met by this guy named Laurent. Lawrence or Laurent. I think that name should... I'm not 100% sure. It's been a minute since I've read Dracula, or looked at Dracula, but I think that name should ring a bell. But I digress. So they welcome him. He welcomes them in, tells them to go pick a room, put the girl in there, and then come back to speak. So they put the girl in there. She's still out cold, and they like handcuff her behind her back, put her blindfold on, and they leave her to wake up. So they're all meeting downstairs, and Laurent's like, okay, so, you know the drill. Which Joey's upset because she's like, y'all didn't tell me this was going to be a little girl, okay? When you said kidnapping, I wasn't expecting like a actual tiny child. And of course, Laurent's like, look, she is the daughter of a very rich, important dude who's going to be $50 million poorer if we do our job correctly. We're each going to get like $7 million. Just chill. Okay? Which, does kind of ease her up. And you're about to find out why. He goes, okay, so I'm going to need everybody to give me your phones. Because the only one making the ransom call will be me. And I don't need anybody using your phones to track you. Blah, blah, blah. So they do, and when Joey gives up her phone, you see her lock screen is a picture of her and a little boy. So you kind of understand now that why she's still against this, but she goes through with it. He tells them that they only have to hold the little girl for 24 hours. He does not tell them her name. He's like, don't ask about her name. Don't worry about who her daddy is. Just, you let me handle that part, because the less y'all know, the better off you are, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. Fred he tells them the kitchen's stocked. Keep the girl compliant. And remember, things will go sideways if the girl is harmed. So, like, can't be beating on the kid. Whatever. So he leaves. One second. I think I have a cat. I had to let my cat in. Whatever. Anyway, so everybody's wanting to party now that Laurence is gone. Party in the kitchen, because like there's a bar and everything. It's whatever. And Joey is pretty good at reading people, and Dean acts like he is, and he like gets everything wrong about everybody. Hi, DJ. That's her. Delilah. Yeah. What is it, DJ? Delilah Jane. What? Hers baby. Hers a baby. I bet this is going to become a recurring theme, isn't it? Oh no. No. Children. Yes, I'm talking about you. I do love her. So Joey admits that, that for a price, okay, so Dean's like, he gets everything wrong about everybody. Like, activist and da da da. And so Joey makes a comment like, yeah, you didn't get anybody right. And he's like, oh, so then you do it. You do it. Prove you're better than me. She, like, acts like she doesn't want to do it, but Frank is like, yeah, here's $100. What do you know about me? Well, she looks him up and down. She goes, ex-cop. Probably a detective. Let me guess. Vice. Or homicide. Which was it? And she goes, it's the way you stand, it's the clothes, your shoes, and the way you have this need of, pardon me, to be in control all the time. It upsets him, but it's true. It's true. He admits, yeah, okay. The little blonde girl, little blonde hacker girl's like, oh, do me next. And she goes, so hands her some money, and she goes, you're only in this for the thrill of it because you're a little rich girl. From the way you act, you're a little rich girl, you're rebelling against mommy and daddy, and this is just some cheap thrill for you. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're so good. And then there's Peter, who's like, yeah, do me. I only have like 50. And she goes, I bet you were bullied in school a lot. So when you were little, got picked on in school a lot by your peers, by your daddy. So you bulked up. And when you bulked up, you made sure that nobody could pick on you no more. So you became a muscle for hire, basically. Am I close? Yep. He's like, oh my gosh, that's so spot on. Which, Peter, he's like that anyway. Which, Sam, little blonde girl, she kind of hypes up anyway, but she's like that because, again, she's one of the youngest crew members. And so this is just really exciting. And she's like, kind of high off the adrenaline. Peter's just kind of like, himbo. Wrinkles is like, I got no money. She goes, so, that's fine. I'm just going to say about you, though, Semper Fi. He goes, ooh, rah. Military. And then, of course, Dean's like, alright, sweet cheeks, do me. And she goes, sociopath, you enjoy trying to take power away from people. You enjoy making them squirm. And basically it was right. Well, Frank goes, alright, time for me to do you. He goes, you like those candies so much because you're a junkie, ain't you? Yeah, I know you junkies when I see you. And it's like all derogatory, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, derogatory. She's like, you know what? I'm just going to go check on the kid. So she goes to check on the kid. The little girl's like all freaking out and waking up. And she's like, what's going to happen to me? So she goes in, and, she's trying to calm her down. And it's like, she takes the girl's blindfold off, but puts her mask back on. So the girl can't really see. And she's like, how about this? I pinky promise nothing bad's going to happen to you. You just have to be, be good. You just have to be good till your daddy pays the ransom. And the little girl kind of sniffles. She goes, do you even know who my daddy is? And she's like, no, and I don't want to. She goes, you will before it's over. And then, she, comforts the little girl some more, tries to placate her. And the little girl goes, do you have kids? And it's like, I can't answer that. She goes, I just want to know if you have kids. And the girl's like, yeah. She goes, girl or a boy? And it's like, I have a boy. She goes, what's his name? I can't tell you that. Can I call him Justin? Yeah. She goes, what is Justin like? Trying to build a rapport. And Joey's like, look, we can't do this. I just need you to understand You know, nothing's going to happen to you. I promise. Nothing's going to happen to you. And the girl's like, you say so. And then the little girl kind of dries up the tears, and she looks oh so serious. And she looks up at Joey. She goes, I'm sorry for what's going to happen to you. Which sets off alarm bells to Joey. So when she leaves, she immediately asks Frank, do you know anything about this girl's dad? And he's like, oh, you getting worried, junkie? And she's over here like, I'm just saying, nothing much freaks me out. But when my alarm bells start going off, I start to freak out a little. And she implied that he's very dangerous. And he's like, of course she did. She's a scared brat. She's going to definitely fear that. Meanwhile, the others are like, you know, playing pool, drinking shots, having fun. Well, Frank goes without his mask to talk to the little girl, which freaks him out when he sees she doesn't have her blindfold on, which he wasn't supposed to be in there anyway. The room was marked. He knew which room she was in because he helped put her there before she woke up. He knew he wasn't supposed to be in there, but he went in there anyway, and he freaked out, started yelling at her, screaming at her, do you know what color my eyes are? Did you see my face? No. And he goes, tell me who your daddy is. And she goes, Lazar. I forgot the first name. And he kind of froze, and he goes, are you me? And she's like, no. So he leaves. And then first of all, he tries to yell at Joey about not leaving the blindfold on the little girl, as she's like, I'm the only one who's supposed to be up in there anyway, so that's on you, buddy boo. And he goes, yeah, well, she saw my face, I'm pretty sure, and we're all screwed because her dad's Lazar. And that freaks out just about everybody in the group except for the little rich girl, who's like, who's Lazar? And they're like, only the biggest crime lord ever? Like, he's not even just into crime. He has infiltrated other places, like the politicians, the media. Like, he's in there. And so they tell horror stories about things they've heard about Lazar and his hitman, Valdez, who has a habit of dismembering people and taking organs. And so everybody's like, yep, maybe we should leave. And it's like, or we trade the girl for our lives. I mean, he put us all together for a reason. He believed we could pull this off. We're gonna stick it out. We got this. Okay, so they all agree, you know, they're gonna double check all of the security places in the manor thing. Lock windows, lock doors, double check, barricade. Because they're afraid of the hitman coming to find them. But, you know, they're going to continue playing the game because, one, they might be able to trade the little girl for their lives, and two, if Laurent set this up and he believes in them, you know, there's a chance that, you know, they could pull this off. Don't know why. And, like, Joey even Joey and Wrinkles even kind of question this because it's like, these guys are obviously not all professional. Like, they have the little talk in between scenes and stuff, like, these guys don't seem professional, except maybe Frank. Why does he think we can do this? But, you know, whatever. They're looking things over, they're barricading. And a recurring motif found around the manor as a shadowy figure in this little girl who's always with him. It's in statues, it's in paintings, it's on murals, like, it's like, interesting. Well, while this is going on, Dean decides to have some fun with Sam. And by that I mean Sammy's watching cartoons. She's picked a room. She's already done her job. And so she's kicking back and she's watching cartoons on this really, really old TV. And Dean decides to scare her before being like, come on, baby, you know you want some. You know you want some. And she, like, kicks him out, threatens him. And he's like, you know what, fine, you bitch. And he, like, leaves. You know, like... So he leaves. And he goes to the kitchen, this, like, kitchen area. And he, like, looks around. He's like, this place don't look right. Then he hears a noise in the cellar-like area. And he goes. And he just kind of looks around. He's like, whatever. And then he gets attacked. Dragged, even. And, of course, Sammy, because she's in a room close by, hears the noise. And she's like, oh, what the fuck? She goes, Dean, if you're trying to scare me, this ain't funny. So she goes to go find him. And she goes into, like, the cellar area. She looks around. There's nothing really there except the rat, who's, like, looking at her like. So she goes into, like, the cellar area, and she's, like, looking around, and she sees the rat, and, you know, and the rat's like, she's like, ew, gross. She turns around, she goes back into the kitchen, and she freaks out because she sees Dean, like, it looks like he's, like, laying kind of, like, on the counter, and she's like, dude, I told you not to screw in with me like this, da-da-da, and she goes to, like, shove him, like, you horrible person, like, goes to, like, and when she does, his head comes off, and she freaks out, she screams bloody murder loud enough that the rest of the crew comes in, and they look at him, and look at her, and of course Frank immediately starts, like, blaming her, and she's over here like, I didn't touch him. She goes, do you really think that I could clean up that fast if I'm the one who did this? Like, don't you think I would be splattered? And it's like, you know, good point. And she's like, besides, you know how freaked out I am right now. And they're like, Valdez is in the building. And Joey's like, I'm gonna go talk to the girl. Gotta go check on the girl. Go check on the girl. Girl's still in there. Like, they peek into the room and they see her, like, like, fake crying into the... I had to go get her because she was crying. It is what it is. This is Salem if y'all forgotten. So anyway, they go check on the girl. She's still there and she's boo-hooing. So Joey goes in to, like, talk to her, you know, and she's like, who's been in here? Has anybody been in here? You know, your father's person, Valdez. And the little girl's like, my daddy wouldn't send anybody for me. He got bored of me. He doesn't love me. Which is really sad and really heartbreaking. She goes, he doesn't really love me. She goes, I don't know why you're trying to get money. And she's like, and she's like, so, you know, Valdez been here. She's like, no, Valdez, there's no one been in here but you and the scary man with the glasses. She kind of pauses, and she goes, and, you know, she kind of pauses for a second. She's, like, sniffling, and Joey's like, look, no secrets, okay? If you want to make it out of this, and we make it out of this, we gotta work together. You cannot be keeping secrets from me. She's like, you know, I remember we pinky promised. I'm gonna protect you. And the little girl goes, the scary man with the glasses said, I can't tell. He'll hurt me. And, you know, after some back and forth, Joey manages to get the girl to say, or gets the girl to admit the truth. The man with the glasses said he's Valdez. Which sets Joey off. She leaves the girl, and she goes downstairs and she rounds up everybody, starts yelling about and, like, she gets really upset. She talks to Wrinkles about it. Because, like, they were looking for Valdez. And Wrinkles is like, look, I don't trust any of them. I say we just take on Frank, and we take on the other two, and we, like, leave. And she's like, you know what, I'm with you. So her and Wrinkles, they have a bond, whatever. He goes to leave, and then she hears him, like, stop, so she turns around to look. He's standing straight up, and she goes, Wrinkles? And she goes to, like, touch him, and he falls over. He's been mauled. And which also has prompted her to go check in on the kid. And that's when the man with the glasses is Valdez. So she goes downstairs, and she, like, gets everybody together, and she starts accusing Frank of being Valdez, and wanting him to do his dirty work, and da-da-da-da-da. And Frank is over here like, I don't know what your problem is. That little girl is manipulating you. She probably has learned manipulation from her daddy. Da-da-da. He goes, you dirty junkie, Just horrible. And, of course, Peter and Sam are just, like, kind of watching this back and forth. Well, Frank's like, you know what? Screw it. The little girl's not important enough. Peter runs up there, and so, of course, Joey follows, which means everybody's following. Peter bursts into the girl's room, and he goes, I'm sorry, little girl, but I have a job to do. And she screams and cries, don't hurt me, Joey, you promise. And she's like, I'm trying. Because Joey bursts in, she starts trying to make Peter leave the little girl alone, starts trying to make Frank leave the little girl alone. Bless you, baby. And just, it's a whole racket. But only Samantha is noticing the little girl has stopped crying and has broke out the chains. And she does like this stuff. She goes, guys. Makes them all stop fighting. They turn and look, and they see the little girl, and she kind of smiles. And then her face contorts. She reveals her vampiric nature, and she attacks Peter. She attacks the blonde girl. Or she attacks everybody. She doesn't really get a good bite in, but she's been fighting. She's like, she's good at fighting. And freaks them all out, and they manage to escape. And they think they locked the door. They locked the door. They think they locked her in there. And they all rush downstairs, and they're like looking at each other like, did not sign up to kidnap a freaking vampire. And of course, Peter's over here like, la, no such thing as vampires, just scare the little girl. And it's like, what do we know about vampires? And the little blonde girl, and Sam's like, Anne Rice, Twilight, Prom Stroker, what kind of vampire are we talking about? And it's like, any of them. And it's like, sunlight, garlic, steaks. And it's like, and Frank's like, that's not gonna do us any good. We leave. So they try to leave. And they discover that they can't. Everything's locked down. And they're like, Laurent set us up. I bet he knew what she was like. He set us up. Kidnap her for the money and leave us to die. Anyway, so they go. Most of them go to collect, like, what they need. Samantha goes. Her thing is she's supposed to go get garlic. She ends up with onions, and they have to go back to go get the garlic. Peter goes and he sharpens steaks out of the pool cues, and they're like, come on, are you coming with us, Joey? And Joey's like, mm-mm. She goes, I ain't touching that. She goes, y'all have fun. So they go to find the little girl. She's escaped from her room, and they hear classical music playing, and they find her doing, and when they find her, she's doing a little ballet performance with the corpse of Dean, which is really freaky, but also wow. And she looks at them and she's like, can we talk about this? Because she sees what they have. She's like, can we talk about this? And they're like, nope. And then she starts crying, and they're like, yeah, no, cut it out. We know better. And she's like, your funeral. And she attacks them. She bites Sammy after sniffing the garlic and being like, it smells a little bad, but whatever. Attacks them, impales Frank with his own stake through the knee, attacks Peter, and Peter like tries to show his crucifix, and she's like, "Oh please, you don't even really believe it." She grabs it and just starts jamming it. It doesn't kill him, and they run back and they find Joey, who tries to help patch everybody up as best as she can. And she's like, "So what did we learn?" And it's like, "We learned that the steak's only we learned that garlic is the garlic thing is BS, and that the steak is, and we don't really know about the steak because she staked us before we could stake her. Also, the crucifix is BS." And Peter's like, "It's not BS." And so like, and Sam's like freaking out. She goes, the little bitch bit me. What's going to happen to me?" And it's like, "Don't know. We got to figure out something." So then they figure out a plan to use a syringe to knock her back out. Because that actually apparently worked. You can knock her out. Didn't kill her, but knocked her out. So they plan to like trap her, which becomes fun little game of cat and mouse. And they manage to knock her out and put her in this like elevator cage thing. And so she's trapped in there. And she wakes up and she dusts herself off all so nicely, you know. And she is in her little tutu covered in blood, and she just looks at them. And she sees Joey, and she starts sniffling and crying, going, "Joey, they're scaring me." And she goes, "You can cut the BS now." And she's like, "Fine." She goes, "You give a very convincing performance of a little girl, though." And she goes, "Oh, thank you. I've had centuries of practice." And of course, they're like, in the cage, like, "Tell us how to get out, and we'll let you out." And she goes, "How about you let me out, and I'll let 2 of you live?" It's like, "But there's 4 of us." And she goes, "Mm-hmm." They're like, "Which 2?" And she goes, "Surprise." And she goes, "But my offer just expired." "No, it's only 1 of you. Whichever one will let me out." And they're like, no. And of course, Sammy's like, "You bit me. What's going to happen to me if I go turn into a vampire or something?" The little girl goes, "Maybe." And it's like, you know, she's like freaking out, and the little girl's like giggling, and they're like, "She's playing with us. What's going on?" She goes, "Wow, you haven't figured it out yet at all, have you?" She goes, "I brought you. There's no Lawrence coming for you in the morning." She goes, "He works for me." And they're like, "What?" And she goes, and you know, Peter's over here like, "What?" And she goes, she goes, "I summoned you here." And Frank's like, "You're Valdez." And she's like, "Took you long enough." She goes, "Yeah, I summoned you all here. All of you. You've all wronged my father's family, and you're gonna pay." So she kind of does a rundown of what their real names are and what crimes they've committed against her father, the crime lord. She doesn't do the 2 that have already perished, or I didn't pick up on if she did or not. But the 4 that have remained. Sam used to siphoning off funds from her parents, her very wealthy parents, and then moved on to using her hacking skills to siphon money from the Lazar family. But no. Pete used to be muscle for this other group that was like a subsidiary group of the Lazar crime family, and then he decided to kill all of his workmates and take the money. No. Frank really was a cop. He was supposed to be undercover with the Lazar crime family, but he enjoyed the life too much, but he still turned in the people he got close to, which prompted little Miss Fancy Nancy into, killing everyone in that room. And she kind of was like, "And that's all on you, Frankie boy, because you had to put your nose where it doesn't belong." And then, Joey really was a medic in the army, but she got injured in the field, which prompted her to use medication she did not need and got her hooked, which is why she doesn't have her son anymore, because she could not care for him because she was getting high. And she tried to get better and whatever. But during one of her episodes where she was high, she was like an underground doctor for the underworld, criminal. And apparently, because she was high while trying to do a surgery, she ended up nicking the artery of someone very important to the Lazar family. And she's like, we're all gonna die. Well, Frank, the others leave because she's gonna try to heal or help out Sam some more. And, try to calm her down about her, you might turn into a vampire thing. And Frank is left with the girl. And she's like, the offer stands. If you let me out, you can go back and nothing will come of this. In fact, the family could use you. You can come back to work for us and it'll be like nothing ever happened. You just have to let me out. And he's like, let me out too. How do I escape? And she goes, fine, a deal's a deal. So she tells him, in the library there's like a book, Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. You flip it and apparently there's like a secret way out. And so he goes to leave and she goes, well, what about me? And he goes, and what about you, creeper? And he goes up to her real close and starts taunting her. And then she kind of smirks and she's like, I love playing with my food. And she bursts open the cage. I'm sorry, Salem. And attacks him, which prompts the others to show up. They manage to open up some of the boarding of the manor, so there's light, and sunlight does hurt her. So that's good enough that it gives them time to escape and they do escape into the library, which is the only place with a lot of sunlight. And they were like, she's just waiting us out. She's waiting us out until it gets dark again, and then she's going to try to eat us again. And it's like, how are we going to escape? Gotta find a way to escape. Frank does try the little Agatha Christie thing. Does not work. She lied, obviously. And Sammy's like freaking out about potentially turning into a vampire, but she steps into the sunlight and, realizes, hey, I'm not dying, so obviously maybe she's not turning me into a vampire. Well, they start to realize, if the lights and stuff are still working, there's got to be a power source. They could probably overload it. So they divide into two teams, Sammy and Peter, and Frank and Joey. Well, Sammy and Peter are talking about, what they're going to do when they escape, hopefully, if they survive. And Peter goes off to check out something, and then Sammy, starts freaking out because she can feel it. Abigail is turning her into a puppet, and, literally whatever she does, poor Sammy has to do with it. Turns Sammy into a vampire, with the teeth and everything. And she uses Sammy to attack poor Peter. He dies. And of course there's Sammy, who's screams. And the other two come in and she's like, she's here, she killed him. And she's really playing it up with Sammy's body, and they're like, Sammy? And Joey's immediately we need to run. And Frank's like, what do you mean? She goes, we need to run, because that's not Sammy. And then when Sammy turns around and shows her teeth with a smile, they're like, oh. Well, there's a chase back to the library, and they turn up the light, Sammy explodes. Okay. She explodes. So when she explodes, they're like, we have to figure out a way out of here. Okay, it's just the two of us now. Abigail's picking us off. She's playing with us. What are we going to do? Door opens up and they're like, do we dare? And it's like, we don't really have a choice. So they go in there and there's Lawrence. He knocks out Joey and he looks at Frank and he's like, okay, so here's the lowdown. Abigail turned to me a few years ago after uh, she lured me and some of my colleagues here. And she killed my colleagues. She turned me. How about I give you vampire powers and you're like autonomous like me, and we kill Abigail and her dad because I like summoned her dad. And Frank's like, deal. Frank did not need vampire powers. Spoiler alert. Lawrence turns him, and the first thing that Frank does is kill Lawrence. And then he tries to kill Joey. But Abigail shows up, and she's like, oh, great, he turned you. And so he thinks he's killed Abigail. He ends up thinking he kills Abigail because he bit her and drained her. Which does weaken her, but it doesn't end up killing her. So they do a big fight in the library because the lights, it's not daylight anymore. And Abigail and Joey end up teaming up to get rid of Frank because it's more and more apparent he does not need the power that he has. But he does end up biting Joey, and he's like, my little puppet. Well, Joey's faking it. And she ends up fighting with him, and he's like, I don't understand, you're supposed to be a puppet. And Abigail, before she delivers the final blow, is like, here's the thing about vampires, Frank. You don't get to do the cool vampire shit until you've been one for a while and figured it all out. So she kills him. And, she looks at Joe and she goes, deal's the deal. You helped me. You saved me. Very grateful for you. You can leave. Go be with your son. And Joey's like, okay. Well, she goes to leave, and Daddy shows up. The daddy vampire. And she goes, Alcazar? Or Lazar. And he's over here like, oh, that's one of the many names I go by. And he looks at his daughter, and he's like, Abigail, what happened? I know you do your little hauntings, but this. And she's like, hi, Dad. And he goes to attack Joey. And she's like, no way. She was here when you weren't. And he's like, I'm here now. And she goes, yeah, now. And he's like, fine. He looks at Joey and he's like, you need to leave. It's dinner time. He goes, it's close to dinner time and you need to leave. She's like, peace. So she leaves. And actually, she's like, oh, what the fuck? And she leaves. So she leaves. And Abigail's kind of happy. I'm kind of disappointed, though. Really kind of wanted Abigail to have Joey as her new mommy. Since her dad's not paying her any attention. Like, that was, a real thing. Dracula, apparently. Or Dracula, Lazar, whatever. Really does not give attention to Abigail. Which is one of the reasons why she collects his enemies and then kills them. Because she thinks they can pay attention to her a little more. There's a scene in the movie where while they're investigating the house, Sammy finds this pool, and it's literally a pool of bodies, because what else would it be? And that's when it kind of fits together of, she's done this before, lured people, and then, but oh my gosh, it was such a good movie, and I'm so glad that the little vampire girl survived. I was so worried about her for a minute there. Me and my friends all were, and we were like, oh, the little vampire girl, yeah, she was going to kill them, but they were kind of shitty people anyway, so, And also, I really wished Joey could have looked, Dracula, Lazar, whoever he is, up in his eyeballs and been like, you need to take care of your kid. Granted, she's one to talk because she's just now attempting to try to restart rebuilding a relationship with her son. But still. But then again, not all kids who are left unsupervised turn into vampiric murderers, so, But anyway, just I I loved it. 10 out of 10. I mean, yes, there were some things that were kind of corny, and they did kind of stick with certain archetypes. But at the same time, they turned stuff on on its head. Like, you knew the little girl was going to be a villain because, you know, the trailer. But also, Frank. Like, Frank was arguably the bigger villain because throughout the whole thing, you know, he's a douche. And he got what was coming to him, and I'm very proud about that. I kind of hope there is a sequel. I know sequels are never as good as the original. I know that. But I do kind of want to see what Abigail can do next. Like, maybe there's a new group that she does this to. Or maybe she finds Joey and is like, I need your help. You know. I don't know. I just think it'd be neat. Yeah, this is Courtney McCullough from Ageless Writer Studios. I'm giving you the thumbs up for Abigail, and hey, it's up to you if you watch it or not. I'm just saying, it's really good. Bye!